and CEO of ISA, a global association for all IT architects, which he took from a local chapter in Texas to an organization with over 25 chapters worldwide. Before ISA, he was serving as a chief architect of Dell Pan Asia, as well as chief architect of Sears and Ansept. Paul.
Hey, thank you. Hi. So I'm Paul Preiss. I'm here to talk to you about real digital transformation leaders and the true leader. So first of all, I want everybody to, so Andreas has worked and Esme and Leo have worked their butts off for you guys to have this first one. So a little round of applause for our staff. Thank you. So I live here now. So, good middag. That's as far as I've gotten. But I'm working on my Dutch. So that's my next step. And so I'm really, really happy to be doing this one and the next one in April and the next one in September next year and the next one and the next one and the next one. We're very excited. We're working with all the local groups. We really, really want to thank Tom for making this successful because, you know, this was our first one and it was a huge roll of the dice. And I don't know. I think it's pretty good. I think it's pretty amazing so far. So we've got great recordings and we've got all sorts of good stuff. But I have a very short amount of time to communicate what the lovely lady I am seeing calls this kind of thinking, which is big ideas that are slightly amorphous that have really, really practical applications today, but that we have to work hard to accomplish and we have to work hard to accomplish as a team. Because the one thing that I always hated as an architect, I was the chief architect of Dell Pan Asia. That was my first architect title. My background is in software development and project management. I actually got a degree in Japanese. I've never taken a technology class in my life. I taught myself to program. Much like many of you, I became an architect by pulling myself up through the ranks by my bootstraps and my bootlaces and claiming the title. So how did I do that? Well, ICE has been in a really unique position for the last 10 years. While everybody else was talking about EA and SOA and governance and standards implementations and big designs and stuff, we were talking about business technology strategists. We were talking about people and how you create people who can transform companies. So I love digital transformation because the world is finally talking about, is finally catching up with what ISA has known, and it's not me, it's thousands of architects globally. We have 80,000 architects in our network. We've got 12,000 members now of like actual subscribed full members. We've got user groups and conferences everywhere in the world, from South America all the way through Asia. And the one thing that comes back time after time after time after time is this big think doesn't work. We're relegated off to this design corner where we play around with Visio for 6 months and then we get dispersed because we're not showing value. But transformation, that's what's exciting. But unfortunately, when I was the chief architect, I got really sick of hype terms. So I don't want to talk to you about hype terms. I want to talk to you about real ideas that are really practical. And the number one is, what the heck is transformation? Because the word, how many of you are involved in a transformation project right now? Okay. How many of you have a transformation project on the horizon coming up? Okay, so about the same number. The transformation hype term is getting interesting because what it is two things. Transformation has two definitions. One is surface transformation, right? What we in Texas, I'm born and bred in Texas, so I might start talking like this sometime. What we call putting lipstick on a pig, right? No matter how much lipstick you apply, it's not going to make it pretty. The other one is structural in nature. It's turning a pig into a cow. It's taking an airline and offering a credit card. It's transforming a business model. It's transforming the structure of your company. It's transforming it in its most basic sense, right? And that includes a lot of change. Now, there are a lot of components that we talk about in transformation, and so the first part of this speech is going to be clarifying this sort of architects and transformation and what it means. So how can we do what I like to call architecture-driven digital transformation? So while everybody else was talking about it's not about technology, it's about the business, we were talking about technology is the business. And we have seen this time after time after time after time. Banks are not about banking anymore. They're about technology. I've been into my bank one time. How many of you have been into your bank more than one time in the last, 6 months? Like the branch. That was, I think, 3 people. Right? What's that? Not even in the last 10 years, yeah. So we were talking about that earlier. Like you said 10 years you've been in one time to work on a mortgage or something. So famously, banks got ready for this a long time ago. You know who's not ready for it? Restaurants. You know who's not ready for it? Insurance company. Okay, they're a little better off. They started investing shortly after. The financial services companies a little ahead of the game. Airlines. Dating. All these big concepts in there, we're not ready for as a society. What is a smart city? What does it mean to have garbage collection and not have that be, completely technology driven? All of our businesses are fundamentally transformed. So what ISA is here to do is prepare you to prepare them for a world where their current business models do not matter. It is my prediction that companies that do not have experienced, and of course I like to say certified architects, as digital transformers will be out of business in 5 to 10 years. They just cannot compete in a world that's digitally transformed. So what does it mean to transform? Well, the most common, what I think of as the lipstick, and certainly, how many of you have been through a reorg in the last, year? Oh, look, half the audience raises their hand, right? The easiest thing to say we're doing transformation is to transform our business processes. Sally is going to report to Steve, who's going to report to Jane, and then they're going to transform their business processes. And so that means they're going to use form A-B instead of form B-C. Or we're going to build a web app for the form so that we can be a digital transformation. It's called computerization as opposed to transformation. So we tend to think of business processes as transformation, and they are a component because certainly our business model changes when we no longer have branch offices. Technology, our favorite topic in IT and in other, and quite frankly, the digital in digital transformation is, you know what, let's put everything on the web. Let's write an app. That'll make us digitally transformed. I'm an insurance company. I now have an app where you can access your insurance information. So let's go change all our systems let's have a Facebook page. We'll have a digital marketing initiative by having a Facebook and a LinkedIn page. Does that work? Maybe, probably not, right? The technology itself is utterly the center of portion of what we do in transformation. But the real change is in the entire business itself, including its people. So real transformation comes from the fact that our customer and our employee is changing. I no longer want to go into a bank. I want to use an app. I want to use an app for all my banking needs. What does that mean? How do I behave differently? What time do I do my banking? What areas are risky in a digital banking model? How do I teach my employees to function in a world where my entire business may not include anything related to what they got employed when they started? What does a digital airline look like? What does a digital government look like? What does a digital dating service look like? Tinder users. The funny thing about this stuff is it's a societal and a customer. Transformation happens next to the customer, right as close to the edge of the company as you can get, right next to the customer and right next to the partner. Now, we in architecture, for a long time, used these big, lovely words to describe what we do. Enterprise architecture is the fundamental organizing logic for the business and blah, blah, blah. And you get this sense of like, I'm on top of the world, right? I have nothing left to conquer. I'm an enterprise architect. I'm architecting the enterprise. Is that really the real life of an architect? No, we've got some challenges, right? The real life of an architect is that our stakeholders are deeply frustrated with what technology is doing to their business. I want you to do this. I'm trying to tell you my customers, I'm losing customers, right? We're Bank of America, we're losing customers to ING. We're not ready. You're not listening. The other side of this is IT has traditionally been an order-taking group. Right? How many of you have an account manager or a business relationship manager whose job is to interface with the business and write down their needs and then schedule that in the next iteration and next release and make projects out of it, et cetera, in your PMO? Everyone. You all have, every single enterprise I have worked with has a business relationship manager whose job it is to take orders. The problem with that, how many of you think that your sales team deeply understands the impact of technology on their sales processes? I call this I call this problem the sort of a geek in the room problem. Right? How many of you go to a party with your family and the Wi-Fi goes out and everybody looks at you like the room silences and they all look at you and go, "Can you go fix that?" Because I don't know. I don't know. I call it the other test is the bar test, right? So go into a bar. Amsterdam's a lovely social environment. Go into a bar, introduce yourself to somebody, ask what they do, and when they ask you what you do, say, "I'm in IT," and watch their body language. You guys just did a human dynamics thing, so watch their body language. What happens? "Oh, really? That's so interesting." Like you're about to start spouting C++ in their face, like, ha 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 ha. Like I'm gonna start listing, like open bracket XML, wah, right? This stuff scares regular people. The people, your customer, your business partner, they don't know how to do a social media strategy. They don't know what social selling might look like. They don't understand a deep long-tail partner network that includes just-in-time manufacturing concepts and supply chain concepts, because all of that stuff happens in a digital world that to them is this. And it's not just a generational thing. It's getting better, but my daughter's 18, she hates technology. Her idea of technology is WhatsApp and Pinterest. That's it. Everything else she could just really care less about. She doesn't want to be involved. She doesn't want to answer the phone. She doesn't want any of that stuff. She's not going to be programming. She's going to be like, if it doesn't work, she's going to not use it. Not going to try to fix it. So how do architects get involved in this? We have this massive change and hype curve that's coming at us over and over and over again. Right? We deal with constant change. We are responsible, but not in control. We don't have budgets, we don't manage people, we don't have resources. How does the architect drive change in this kind of environment? We often are on the outside looking in, right? Look, there's the business people over there. I see them, they're doing businessy stuff. Wow, is that caviar? That's okay, I'll go get my Coke. My Mountain Dew, start writing some code. So transformation, switching from an enabler, from an order taker to a transformer, is about what true architecture means. Right? outside-in thinking, waiting for someone to hand you responsibility, hand you control, is never going to work. We've done it for 25 to 30 years, but now IT has to do something different. Because until then, we're going to look like this, right? We're going to be sitting out there going, I can't, we need to, please help me. Tell me what to do. Give me your requirements. How many of you's IT department do you feel is ahead, is driving the requirements of your business owner, not waiting for them? Try to, hoping to, maybe? This question is interesting because to do it, we have to look like an apple but taste like an orange. Probably the best definition of digital transformation I ever heard was, I talk business and think technology. That came from the CTO 12 years ago, 13 years ago at ISA in India. CTO of Wipro stood in front of 700 people and said, if you want to be an architect, you have to talk business and think technology. Not talk business and think business. You have to, or what's the opposite side? Talk technology and think business? I don't know that one. That would be cool. Let's get to that world. I guess if you work for a technology product company, maybe that one fits. But ultimately, it is about fundamentally changing the way you interact with your customer. Now, to me, that means we've got to start changing our language. Right? How many of you deal with ROI on a day in, day out basis? Notice I did not say TCO, I said ROI. One, return on investment. What our illustrious CTO talked about this morning when he said bang for your buck. Now, I run a nonprofit. ISA is a nonprofit. Now, my bang for the buck is ultimately what I would call the value of the profession. So it's a little more esoteric than bang for the buck, right? It's a little more esoteric than did we make $3 for every dollar we spent. But ultimately, bang for a buck to a business means value. What do we value and how are we sustaining our business? Transformation is about helping your business prepare for the next business model, which is always, always, always going to be digitally driven. There are no such thing as analog businesses in 5 years. The analog component, the physical component, is secondary. Oh, Paul, you're lying. You know what? I can prove it. 80 years ago or so, 85-ish, finance was in exactly the same position that we are. Somewhere between 85 and 100 years ago, finance was a back-of-house operation. They spoke a really weird sort of language about ROI and TCOs and things. They came and wrote on blackboards in these weird symbols, and then they said, your budget is blessed. And then they went away and disappeared behind for another year. Who is, in most cases, the second most powerful person in every company these days? The CFO, right? Why? Did accounting change that much in the last 100 years? Did the chart of accounts all of a sudden grow wings and take off and turn into the most important thing? What changed? Anybody know? Every single one of you is involved in the change. Probably. Unless you're like me and you spend it faster than you save it. What changed? Come on, people, I know you can do this. Where do you keep your money when you make it? In a bank. What does the bank do with it? And they invest it. What are they invested in? Companies that make money and grow. The secondary and tertiary markets fundamentally transform the finance profession from a group of accountants to a group of financial strategists. The invention of the internet and business online and business models that include technology components has transformed IT from a back-of-the-house operation to a fundamental strategic business unit. Boom. It's that simple. You should be at the forefront of that transformation. You need to build things. You need to be the best architect in the room. The best architect in the room isn't the best engineer in the room, and it's not always the best business person in the room. Keep in mind, there's no such thing as the business. Marketing doesn't walk in and go, we're the business. Hi. Because sales would look at them and go, screw you, right? Finance would look at them and go, sit down, because your marketing budget's controlled by me. Operations says, yeah, okay, sell everything you want. I deliver value to our customer. There is no such thing as the business. There is just people who think like they're the business and people who don't. If you want to be a person that thinks like the business, then you have to start talking in the language of business. You have to start talking about cash flow. You have to start talking about ROI. And I don't mean if you're the chief architect. I mean if you're a junior software architect. The ISA career model in research indicates that real change happens where? Close to the customer, business architecture, and in execution, solution architecture. Your CEO may set strategy, but is he or she actually down making hamburgers or working the line? No. Your chief architect helps set technology strategy, but the real change happens in planning or ideation at the close to the customer in your business units, as well as in execution or during your projects, solution architecture. And the real value of that activity is measured by business terms, not by the number of requirements. So I'm going to give you a little thought, because I'm going to really ask you to unthink some things. The vast majority of you, how many of you work for IT, by the way, in some fashion? Okay, 95%. How many of you don't? Okay, that's cool. We want to get about half and half in the next conference, right? Because this is where it really is happening. This is where architects should be living. I have no problem reporting into IT, by the way. I never have, never will. I am a technologist. I still write code. I can bring up my development environment if you don't believe me. I didn't say it's great code, so be nice. But the point is, I have no problem being a technologist. The issue that I have is that we tend to speak in technical terms and not in business terms. The language of business is finance and operational measures, and that's what we have to start transforming ourselves to. We have to start looking at ourselves as transformation agents, as owners, as deliverers of value, and moving that value up, not waiting for it to come down. So instead of thinking about what your chief architect is, I want you to start thinking about what portion of revenue, customer value, customer behavior, operational measures, or other business value do you own? Now that would happen across all the architects in the system, right? You got business architects doing it over here at the line of business level. You've got infrastructure architects looking at data center. You've got software solution. You've got a whole architecture team. But if they're not driving change, then they are not in the business of your business. They're in the technology business. They're in the IT, internal optimization business, and that is not transformation. Business technology strategy, the most fundamental skill to transformation. The strategy piece of that is about a stratagem, right? It's about owning something big. What business strategy do you own? What business strategy do you own? What information strategy? How are you making your customers behave differently tomorrow? And not 2 years from now. Tomorrow. How will TomTom automotive customers buy more TomTom? How will you succeed at bids faster? How will Albert Heijn serve a fundamentally different customer tomorrow, who may or may not want to order online, who may or may not want a different kind of food, who does or doesn't cook anymore? So all of those things are about strategy and about ownership. And no, frameworks are not the answer. I will go online and say, TOGAF will not help you be a better architect. Let me ask you a different question. Will Scrum help you be a better coder? If I give you a nail gun, will it make you a carpenter? No. In fact, it just makes you dangerous, right? I mean, I can give a 5-year-old a nail gun. Oh, wait, we all just kind of go, wait a second, what? Because giving a tool that you don't know how to use to someone is dangerous. TOGAF is a great framework. FIAF is a great framework. What I care about are great people. How many of you would go see a doctor, a surgeon, that hadn't done a surgery in 10 years? Not one. But they thought they'd get their game back on you. Sure, I'll do that knee replacement. We have to start thinking like professionals. And that means we need to get involved in solutions and skills and capabilities. This is the ISA capability model. I'm not going to go through it in detail. If you want, IDABOK 2 is online. We have the most robust capability model for architects in the world. It goes through every skill you need at too much detail, quite frankly. We have 4 levels of capability that we grow into. We have IDABOK 3 coming out, which, if you notice, is all about digital transformation. This will be out 4th quarter this year. So we have innovation and disruption, transformation and measurement. Those are the cornerstones of our work. Architects have a mandate for value, for coverage, for quality, and for maturity. And we focus on actual outcomes related to digital business models, customer experience, the digital employee, and operational excellence. These are the language that business people speak. And this is the language that we're teaching in transformation. I just like that picture. I don't know. Can I really do that? Because this is the place where I get the question like, yeah, but Paul, I mean, my company won't let me do that. I don't even know. I'm 3 degrees from my business partner, and if I went and talked to them, I'd be in trouble. Okay, so that's your reality. How are you going to change it? How are you going to fix it? Because I'll tell you, your company's broken if that's true. Or maybe you need to develop your skills a little more. Or maybe you need to try some techniques. So I got my first chief architect title because I never had lunch with IT. I'm not kidding. That is how I got it. I had lunch in the sales and marketing area. I had bumped into a guy in Japan that was a salesperson, and he was super funny, and we got to a friendship, and we started having lunch together because I didn't know anybody in Japan, and my Japanese was reasonably good, but it wasn't colloquial, and he spoke pretty decent English, and so we kind of helped each other out and hung out. And one day I was just chatting, I was like, you know, I know Gateway's really pushing on us, and I had just relaunched our online store. So I just relaunched the whole online store, redesigned the whole thing. Notice I didn't say re-architected. There's a nuance there that's important that we'll talk about. Redesigned the online store, and I said, you know, I'm just curious, what is it that you get, what kind of questions do you get when you get on the telephone with a customer? And he was, because I'm just curious, because it's like, if my mom were on the phone, she'd be like, but what's a laptop? Right, back then. Is that something I could use? And he was like, well, you know, there's some really kind of normal stuff. Like, they want to know, you know, I ask them kind of like, where are they going to use it? And, you know, what's their interest? Are they doing like email or playing games or, you know, this kind of stuff. So we went through these kind of few questions. From that, I built a business case to add a recommendation wizard. I know that's old hat now, but this was 1999, right? I built a recommendation wizard just because it sounded like a cool idea. It cost me $40,000 to do. We deployed it, and our online sales went up by 15%. Our total basket price went up by about 5 to 7%. And if you think about the volume of orders at Dell, on average, that's a big wad of money. When they measured that, when they found that out 6 months after deployment, the CIO came over and said, what job do you want? And I was all of 27 years old, and I went, Chief Architect. And he goes, oh, okay, what is that? I don't know, I read it in a book. It sounds really awesome. Literally, that's how I got it. But that is the difference of digital transformation. That was my big win, if you will. And by the way, I have about 20 failures to that one win, right? I didn't tell you that when I launched my online store, I almost got fired because I didn't understand scalability. So I went from 400 concurrent users per store server to about 150 and didn't add hardware. Let's just say I slept under my desk for a while. The world is changing. The world is digitizing. The world is new. Everything is now a bigger picture. So here's where it's going to get a little esoteric, right? You've heard about the digital transformation of workforce. You've heard about the fact that we're capturing more and more information everywhere, and it's just going up exponentially. You've heard about you've heard today about the possible security issues. You've heard about everything. Infrastructure. This is where it gets exciting. You want to change your world, okay? There's a huge percentage of people from TomTom here. Obviously, infrastructure is a huge deal. But you know what? How many of you have driven over a pothole recently? There's a flip side of this, okay? It sounds weird, right? Except we talk about digitization of infrastructure like it's going to happen tomorrow, like it's already done. We can't fill potholes on time, man. Like, all of a sudden we're going to have sensors in every surface. We've got some time to plan. But we've got to lead to get there, right? We have a huge business. Why would a bank care about infrastructure like this? Better yet, why would, what's a chain of restaurants here in the Netherlands? Huh? Damn. Van der Vallen. Yeah? Okay. So I gave it a shot. Why would they care about infrastructure and IoT? Driving along, kind of hungry. How did I know I was hungry? Hey, where can I find a restaurant? Ooh, that goes into my TomTom thing. Ooh, does TomTom know about my preferences for food? Are you guys now, TomTom, now not a navigation company, you're a food company or advertising company? Oh God, that's got to keep you guys up at night, by the way. So I talked to one of the first MapQuest, that struggled with this because there's a whole storing people's personal information and how much of that you want to own and how scary it is to know that much about a human being. But anyway, that being said, infrastructure, business models represent a huge opportunity for a lot of businesses, not just the TomToms or cars of the world. Everything is a device world. You've got a device there. Why? Why do you have to buy that? In a digital society, that will be a device as well. So will that table. My shoe will be a device. I've always wondered why we carry Fitbits, Because the truth is, why don't my shoes just know how far I walked that day? Right? And why do I need to have a phone to be the center of everything? Why can't it just tell the local server which knows that I'm there? And I just have an IP address that I carry around with me, and then my devices tell it whatever they need to know. If I pick that up, why does it have to belong to you? We're at the point where I could download an operating system on that in a reasonable amount of time over Wi-Fi that it could now be my device. For the 2 seconds I was holding it, I just calling home, hey baby, I'm going to be late, I'm at a conference, yeah, you see, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Hand it back to you and it's now your device. What happens in a world where everything is a device? How do we even think about security? How do we think about what that does to privacy, to opportunities for business? The transactional businesses will be huge that just happen in this room. Are we ready for digital assistants? Let me ask you a question. If your digital assistant right now knew that you wanted to go on a vacation on a certain date, would you trust it to buy you plane tickets with your bank account right now without your approval? What about trading on your behalf? Most banks do digital trading, and that actually is happening. They trust their digital trader within a very broad degree compared to what it was just 5 years ago, just 2 years ago. The digital assistants are the real world. All business is technology now, right? Life is technology. Our digital lives are in many ways more important, and there are more opportunities. Second life aside, there are more opportunities for you to create a community and business models for your company in the lifestyle that your customer expects than there are not. And that doesn't mean just in banking if you're a bank, or navigation if you're a navigation system, or tires if you're a tire company. Everything is a digital lifestyle choice. Can I get these shoes that know how many feet I've walked? Or do they not have them? Because I'm not going to buy them because I gave in my Fitbit, and I can go buy a pair of Nikes or a pair of, your shoes or whatever that happen to have that. And that's a part now of my digital life, because where's that information going to go? What am I most proud of? Is it that I'm actually trimming down and I can fit in my suit? Yeah, that's nice. What's really exciting in some ways? The Facebook post automatically came up and showed I walked 10,000 steps that day. All my friends know I'm in shape. That's a big deal in Texas where we're really fat. Play is changing. Anybody here have kids? Everybody hand those kids the device when they start getting cranky? Or just every once in a while? I did too. It's nothing to... Digital play is one of the most important areas of learning, of people development, of community development in the world. There are business models galore. How can you make your customer change their behavior? Instead of making it a boring financial app that you just press the go button, what do? You make it fun. You know what I always wanted? Something they finally started offering? I wanted my navigation system to talk to me in a pirate voice. Just because. I got really tired of, please turn right, I wanted to go, "Aye, matey, you idiots, just turn here," just have some fun. And that can be the difference between going with a TomTom device or going with just Google Maps on my phone. Love and money. Are you guys ready for digital currencies? It's not going to be Bitcoin, by the way. But every government is evaluating digital currencies. What do we do? How do we deal? There's just more and more opportunities for money. Love. Anybody in here single? Okay, you don't have to answer that. I'm single. So the nature of love has changed. The way we fall in love has changed. Everybody I know here in Amsterdam now is half the time we're sitting and hanging out. I'm like, can you get off a tender and hang out here? There's a person looking at you right over there. Yeah, but that's okay. Right? I mean, the whole nature of life has changed, and we are here to make and take advantage of those. We also have to be careful of our responsibilities in that place. Manufacturing jobs may reach the multiple millions lost to technology. Regular people don't know what to do. We have a chance to lead our businesses in these spaces. How do we choose the beneficiaries of the technology or digitally driven lifestyle? What do we do with poor people who can't afford to be in technology or have technology? What do we do with privacy when every moment of our lives is recorded from multiple angles? And I'm not talking about just the proud moments where we finally got to the top to Base Camp 1 when we were trying to go to Mount Everest. I'm talking about the really crappy ones in college where we were at the bar. Enough said, right? College bar. Oof. You really want your employer seeing that? Or your date? What do we do? How do we use these things? How do we grow with these things? How do we build these into our thinking? So all of these concepts have become fundamentally important to how we think of digital transformation. And it's a part of what we have to prepare for. Now, I've got a whole bunch of answers to that in there, and I'm just going to not scroll through those because I want you to be able to have time to ask things. But effectively, what we're talking about here in transformation is, I like to say one thing. Owners aren't born, they're burned. Right? It's about trying stuff. You becoming a digital transformer boils down to one thing. That sounds really cool, doesn't it? It sounds like you're about to turn from a human into like a car and drive away. But you becoming a transformation agent, an agent of change, boils down to how willing you are to recommend changes that are your own at your company. Having ideas and trying to get them delivered. It's the entrepreneurial spirit baked into the corporate environment. How do you change? Because I'll tell you, there's no such, I have leaders of my company, right? And I have leaders of the association and the profession. All of them have opinions. And a great CEO told me once, he said, you know, Paul, anybody in my company would benefit from my support. Anyway, the janitor would all of a sudden be the center of business if I said, let's enable the janitor to make decisions. And I went, yeah, okay, that makes sense. He said, you know, the funny thing is, the only ones that get my support are the ones that don't need it. And I can tell you, running ISA, that's exactly the case. The people that I focus on for leading the profession, for driving chapter growth, for building new education, are the ones that don't need me to come and give them a bunch of money to do so. That don't need me to go tell everybody, oh, no, it's okay, let them do stuff. The people that get to do that are the ones that go, I have an idea for how we can grow our business by 5%, and then they go make that happen. And then when they've done that, they go, I have a way of opening a new customer market segment, and then they go make that happen. Those are business owners. That's how you become the business. So the whole notion here, and the whole Ida Bach technique that we teach, is not about framework. It's not about business process change. It's not even about IoT or machine learning. Those are tools. The real process we teach is how to make you think like an owner. How do I make you think like a CEO, but still retain your technology skills? Because those are the people that are inside the room. They're not the big fat bear looking in from the outside. The owners are the ones that did stuff, that do stuff, that write business cases. So let's prove this. How many of you have written your own business case in the last 2 years for a company? Your idea that you drove. Okay. All I ask, your first business case will not be accepted. And I don't care if your version of a business case is a napkin, right? The canonical software Silicon Valley napkin. By the time, this time in April, if you've written your own business case and submitted it into your PMO, I will give you a free ticket to the April event. Because that's who it's going to be for. That's who these events are for. These are techniques to drive change and own them. And I don't mean you own it like you're, God from on high and you're all of a sudden the most important person in every room. I mean, you're submitting ideas as a part of the team. That's what sales does. That's what operations does. That's what marketing does. That's what everybody who's considered a business unit does. Okay? So, any questions? I think I have time for like one or two. Wow. This must have been a terrible presentation. I'm sorry, guys. No questions. Zero value. All right. Anyway, so we're going to be doing this quite often, and I really appreciate you coming out, but I guess that's right on time, right? Right on time? Which is a first for me. So, okay, thank you very much.